Hello and welcome to today's program. I am Ogechukwu Ukekwe. The Federal Executive Council (FEC) has approved contract worth 10.3 billion for the procurement of essential medical supplies, including antiretroviral drugs for HIV treatment, diabetics, diagnostic kits, and other critical health commodities. Speaking after the fourth FEC meeting of the year, the Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Ali Pate, briefed State House correspondents on the approval. Pate noted that the approval is aimed at enhancing the accessibility and affordability of health commodities, health services by Nigerians.
First category was the third-line antiretroviral drugs. A few weeks ago, we approved the first-line antiretroviral drugs. The second and third line for those who are resistant. Nigeria is putting forth resources, almost 997 million naira worth of contract to procure the third-line antiretroviral drugs for those who are HIV infected. I believe you will understand the importance of this given the changes in the global health financing and moving towards more of domestic financing to allow Nigerians to continue on treatment that they require.
And the Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Ali Pate, has announced that the federal government is preparing to engage 28,000 Nigerian health workers who were previously funded by the United States Agency for International Development. This move comes in response to a policy shift by the U.S. government, which was passed foreign aid, including HIV treatment funding. Speaking during an interview with newsmen, Pate emphasized the government's readiness to take full ownership of the nation's healthcare sector. This is particularly critical given the recent funding exchange tied to an executive order issued by former U.S. President Donald Trump. We'll go on a short break and we'll be right back.
In the last 3 years, we have built a multi-purpose center, which is the envy of all in our constituency. And I can tell you that the people who are living there are already enjoying it.
Guy, do you think what this man just said is true? See, I seriously doubt. I'm sure it's one of those their silly lies.
And wait, do you know there's a way to find out if these things he's saying is true or not? This is the Construct app. It gives people like us a sure way to track implementation of constituency projects. It gives valid and verified information on location of projects, amounts allocated, amount funded, the level of job done, and even the profiles of concerned legislators. You and I can post directly on this app.
Are you serious?
This is the Go-To app if you want to know how our Commonwealth is being expanded by the government.
Wow. Let's even see if what this man said is true. Show me.
The Construct app is developed by Other People Nigeria with support from USAID and is available on both Google Play Store and Apple Store.
And it's true.
Of course, I told you.
Corruption not in my country.
Hello, Alhaji. Right now I'm in Abuja. No. Hello? Adamu. Right now I'm in Kano. Yes. When I get back, I will just call you. Look, what is wrong with you? I'm talking on the phone and you are gesticulating and doing. What's wrong with you?
Daddy, where exactly are we as we speak?
Are you alright? This is Lagos.
Well, you just lied to someone that we are in Abuja.
Keep quiet. Who told you can tell an elderly person is lying?
Daddy, you just lied. And by lying, you are raising corrupt children for the future of Nigeria. That is corruption, not in my country.
Corruption not in my country.
Welcome back. The National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control says it has seized 87 truckloads of banned, expired, and substantial medical products, including USAID and UNFPA donated drugs, male and female condoms, amongst others. This followed a crackdown on the illicit drug trade that saw it raiding the country's three major open drug markets of Ariaria and Ezoku in Aba, Bridgehead markets in Onitsha, and Idumota drug market in Lagos. NAFDAC Director General Mojisola Adeyeye revealed this when she briefed State House correspondent at the presidential villa in Abuja. She affirms that the operation uncovered shocking violation of drug storage and distribution regulations, including diverted donated medical supplies. Meanwhile, the National Drug Agency for Food, Drug Administration and Control has also proposed a death penalty for drug peddlers in Nigeria. Mojisola Adeyeye, the Director General NAFDAC, said this call has become necessary owing to the damage done by drug peddlers to Nigerian society.
To include life sentence and death penalty in the penalties for crimes committed under these acts. This exercise that we are doing is purely an enforcement operation to protect the public and rid our country of falsified and substandard medical products. Drugs are not spirit. They came into the country through borders and ports. And I've often said that it takes a village to raise a child. It doesn't take only NAFDAC and PCN to ensure that we have sanity in our drug distribution or we mitigate substandard falsified medicines. What the NSA found was that they tested the tissue of some of these suicide bombers and found tramadol there. Because what illicit drugs do is to alter the personality of the user. So their mind is completely altered. That's why they can tie bomb around themselves. So there is direct link between the abuse of drugs or use of illicit drugs to terrorism.
Well, joining me on the program to discuss further is Chairman Chidcon Medical Center, Dr. Philip Njemanze. Thank you for joining us on the program. So why do we continue to see the reoccurrence of expired or substantial products in the market, despite previous seizures and crackdowns?
Yes, thank you for having me. Yes, well, anything that makes money will attract a business. And that's the problem with expired drugs. They make money for people. And these people will be engaged in illicit trafficking. I must here commend the NAFDAC director and his staff. NAFDAC is doing a very wonderful work for the country and deserves all the support it can get from the Nigerian people. And we should, as a society, remain the eyes and ears of NAFDAC and offering them the best we can offer in terms of protection from the law enforcement agencies we have in the country. So this is quite what I will say about the fight. But more importantly, you had mentioned that the director asked for death sentence for drug peddlers. Yes, I am not a supporter of death sentence generally. Because we have been there before. We have death sentence for armed robbery, and armed robbery just became more and more deadly. We have death sentence for kidnapping, and of course, the kidnapping has now become even more severe and more deadly. So really, the experience in society of imposing death sentences has not been the one of crime prevention. It only made the crime more severe, more deadly. So I think even when they proposed for rapists, death sentence, not even in Nigeria, in India, for example, they burnt all their victims. And the running to death sentence is not encouraging, both in this country and also internationally. So I think what we need to rethink how we handle this drug peddling and selling of expired drugs or substandard drugs. we must discourage it from being a business. And anybody who is in any business, whether legitimate or illegitimate, wants to make profit. So how do you now make drug peddling not to be profitable? And then all this importation of the illicit or expired drugs into the country. You make and encourage home production of drugs, legitimate home production, which can be under the auspices and guidance and guidelines of NAFDAC. So what do we need to do? What we need to do is to mobilize the resources for that. Drug production needs billions of billions of naira. So what we need to be having in this country is a health bank that offers at least 200 billion in loans to people who are in the health sector. This can be taken by pharmaceutical companies looking for new production lines. This can be taken by hospitals. It can be taken by doctors looking to buy new equipment. But you provide them single-digit interest loans, maybe 5% interest, not the 22 or 30% interest that is being provided by commercial banks. So this will encourage them to produce these things, these drugs, in the country at a very reasonable cost. And it will be thoroughly made because the NAFDAC is there for oversight services in the country. So that is why we need to discourage this importation, because if they are going to import the drug, it's going to cost apart from just that it's substandard, the transportation will be the same, the tariff rates will be the same. So when we impose high tariff on these importations, this will also discourage it because they can't make any money. And if they can't make any money, so why be in the business? So this is a more sensible, more productive way of doing this. So I think the federal government needs to think about this health bank. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu can be the president that breaks the ice here, and he can just launch 200 billion naira loan that is available to the health sector. Let us call it the health bank. And pharmaceutical companies can go there and borrow money at very low interest rates, and then be able to produce these things in the country in a very standard fashion.
So do you think there are gaps in the enforcement of drug storage and distribution regulation that contributes to the persistence of this problem?
Yes, I think there are, because especially in the distribution, in distribution of drugs, you must have prescription right. Who is the person who authorizes the dispensing of drugs? Those prescription rights in almost every country and from history has belonged to the doctor. The doctor prescribes, the pharmacist dispenses. This is the standard practice in every country, and we cannot reinvent the wheel here. And in Nigeria, there is no enforceable prescription right. The National Assembly needs to pass a prescription rights drug where the doctor is mandated to prescribe a drug and then the pharmacist dispenses. Once we have this accredited, well-supervised channel of drug distribution, anything outside this ambit then becomes an illegal use of drugs. And this should be done. Even Benin Republic, that is just next to us here, has these prescription rights. And in many other countries, these are present in Africa. Not to talk about the developed countries where the prescription rights are severely enforced. So I think what we really need is for the National Assembly to pass a comprehensive prescription rights law. And once it's done, so we know that the drug is coming in, and the NAFDAC and all the authorities of the custom and excise can actually impose tariffs. And when they get to the pharmacist who stores this drug and dispenses it, he can only dispense that drug if the doctor has written a prescription. And this can be also made accountable to NAFDAC. So I think what we need is a comprehensive prescription rights law in this country.
So the NAFDAC has also proposed a death penalty for drug peddlers in Nigeria. What impact do you believe the proposed death penalty will have on the fight against drug trafficking and abuse in Nigeria?
Well, when I listened to the interview of the NAFTA director, and she rightly mentioned a few ridiculous statutes in the law, which imposes 250,000 fine and 6 months to 2 years imprisonment. These ridiculous statutes must be removed and made more severe. You can have 10-year sentences, 14-year sentences in the law. But however, I wouldn't subscribe to death sentence because I know that once you have the death sentence, what you're going to have is that the drug peddler will become so emboldened that he will almost kill everybody on the way. Of anybody who is a witness, anybody who has anything to say about this, and this will just be like the cocaine and all these illicit heavy drugs distribution. It will not stop the art; it will just make it more deadly. So I think the issue of the of death penalty should be off the table for now. Let us do the needful, control the distribution of the drug, control, impose more severe sentences. Of course, the NAFTA director is right about that. You can give people 250,000 naira fine for when they are going to earn 250 million. So from drug distribution. So I think we need to make the sentences more severe, and we need to protect more the staff of NAFTA because they're engaged. All these ladies and gentlemen are engaged in very, very dangerous duty, which is very, very essential for the country.
So could corruption or lack of accountability within the distribution chain be contributing to the continuous reoccurrence of expired medicine in the market?
Yeah, what we really have now is free for all because there is no person, as I said, controlling the prescription, right? So my grandmother can prescribe, anybody on the street can prescribe. In the marketplaces, they are prescribing drugs, and everybody is free for all. You really don't have a well organized chain of distribution of these drugs, and that's what you're going to have. Is what you have. It's going to be chaos because nobody is in charge. So I think we just have to do the needful as far as the laws are concerned. And we make sure that this drug distribution, it's not everybody that can sell drugs. We've made it so that everybody now can sell drugs if they so desire. We have made it also that everybody can prescribe drugs. So what we have is chaos, and the National Assembly should be charged with coming up with a very well packaged drug prescription rights law, which we kind of streamline the distribution of drugs in this country.
How can manufacturers and distributors be held more accountable for the proper handling and expiration dates of their products?
Yeah, I think for one thing, if you make the drugs in this country, at least most of the drugs, and as we said, we need a health bank for that. So if you make the drugs, they use the time of manufacturing, so the time of use will be shortened. So that will make things much more easier and more streamlined. So I think that could be solved just by making sure that the drugs are produced locally.
What steps do you think can be taken to improve the transparency and traceability of medical products from production to final distribution?
Yeah, I think it will be hard to do that now in the current circumstance, whereby these drugs are produced somewhere in Mexico, in China, or India, or somewhere there. So you can really monitor that. So that's why you have to understand health is national security. Pharmaceutical health, the aspect of it is very, very crucial. So the fact that you make these drugs outside is a national security hazard already. So I think what we need to do is to make sure that we have a homegrown way of producing these drugs, and so we can control the whole chain of from production to the person who prescribes and the person who distributes. So and until we do that, and the National Assembly has to step up here and help with this. You know, NAFDAC is an enforcement agency. They can only enforce the laws in the country. Now, but if you don't have laws to guide their operation, then you just create more hazard and more problems in the country in terms of the drug distribution.
So many Nigerians are unaware of how to identify counterfeit drugs or the danger they pose. How can the public be educated about the risk of purchasing medicines from unregulated markets?
Yes, I think here we have a very big challenge, because what is counterfeited is not just the drug, it is the expiry date. So they have perfected a way of cleaning off the factory designated expiry dates, and then making them last longer, but somehow by printing a new date. So it will be challenging for the ordinary person to dictate this. But usually within the system, if the pharmaceutical companies producing these drugs are right here and doing this thing here, even when they are foreign, they should be producing in Nigeria, and that will create jobs for Nigeria. You say, okay, good, you are Pfizer, you want to produce, but we can only allow your drugs in if you produce them in Nigeria. So and we have the raw materials here. You can do that and if you want to bring in something, we impose a very high tariff rate. So we can borrow some of that lesson from President Trump. Once we impose a very high, your drugs can't sell here. So, but if we force them to produce these drugs just by even using tariffs, they have to produce it here, and they have to write a lot number that is designating what package of their drug when it was released. So we can actually locally here trace when the drug was released, and then of course the expiry date and the validity of that. It will be very difficult for counterfeiters to do that right here and change all of that. So I think there is need to really rethink about the whole pharmaceutical industry and the way it's organized right now.
Well, Chairman Chidikon Medical Center, Dr. Philip Njemanze, thank you for lending your thoughts on the program.
Thank you for having me.
And that's all for today's episode. Thank you for watching, and we will see you again next time.